Hello and welcome, I am Geran and it is time for the PokéSins Season 3 wrap-up. This is essentially like a BTSF for the entire third season, talking about what I liked, what I didn't like, the best episodes, the worst episodes, and my personal favourite episode and jokes, or episodes and jokes. This season had the most changes in how I make the episodes, because I've been making Season 3 episodes for almost 8 years. 2015 I started. Details of my style have changed since then, like new plus and minus art, a new PokéSins logo, general improvements and trimming on the episodes and editing. In a way, Season 3 captures more of a cross-section of my series than Season 1 does. Best things. Well, first of all, Johto had much better dialogue, characterization and animation. Overall, it was just an improvement over Season 1, definitely over Season 2. It was just better in virtually every way like that. It had lots of clever stories around a lot of new Pokemon like Quagsire, Ledybur and Hoppip, and it more organically introduced the Johto starters, as well as found a more gradual, natural way for Ash to acquire them. I still would have rather that Misty get Totodile, but I think this is the last generation where Ash gets all three, except I think Gen 5? Worse things. Weirdly, wasted potential is my biggest problem with this. Given the overall higher quality of, well, everything, it then becomes more disappointing when it does stuff badly. For example, the abandoning of the GS Ball plot. Something that was essentially bigged up for a season and a half is just dropped. Gone. Forever. And I know why. They originally planned a plot line to do with Celebi. Celebi was supposed to be inside the GS Ball, but they decided to use Celebi in a movie instead. But it's just such a shame that it never went anywhere. Wobbuffet, I have to mention Wobbuffet. I get that it's supposed to be comic relief, and the origins of Wobbuffet make it a rather tragic character and inclusion, but it annoys the hell out of me. I've had people argue that Wobbuffet is a Pokemon that lets itself out, so it shouldn't get a Minun, but that doesn't work as an argument to me. As I see it, Pokemon shouldn't let themselves out. If they do, it's either a disobedient Pokemon or a malfunctioning ball. I want to think of a quicker, more succinct way to say letting itself out, because of just how often Wobbuffet makes me say it. My 5 favourite Season 3 episodes. Starting with number 5, there was Episode 2, Double Trouble Header. Casey is an interesting character, a new trainer, who acts like a new trainer, but with an obsession that isn't just, oh, Pokemon are great, I want to get all the Pokemon. And it was a great way to recap stuff about the world, having her appear in Episode 2 of the season, but also a way of showing how much Ash has grown since Season 1. Then there's Episode 11, Once in a Blue Moon. This was a delightful concept for an episode, something that combines a local story, Pokemon quirks, and some humour and pretty imagery. Definitely a filler episode, but it did it in a really fun way. Then Episode 15, Fighting Flyer with Fire. A spectacular episode. It's the highest scoring episode I think in PokéSins history for a reason. It has a gym leader who isn't driven by ego, some genuine interactions and connections, and just a really good battle. Then Episode 23, Mild and Woolly. A quick story. When I was young, I once played through Pokemon Silver with my mum. We had a Mareep in the team that evolved up to Ampharos, and I never cared much for it. Since then, I still have not cared much for Mareep, until this episode. It was so constantly cute that I just sort of fell in love with it. It also had a Pokemon playing a role in everyday life, which I always enjoy, and it presented Mareep herding in such a clever way, like using electric attacks instead of a sheepdog to round them up. They were just so cute. And then my favourite episode, Episode 21, Foul Weather Friends. I loved this one. It had random wild Pokemon, it had meteorology, and if you've forgotten, I almost went into meteorology instead of creative writing as a university course. It had people using Pokemon in everyday jobs. The Hoppip were adorable quite consistently, and it was overall a very good story. In particular, I want to call out that Misty's treatment of Oddish was amazing. She really seemed to connect with it, empathizing with and comforting it. It was a little harder to pin down my 5 worst episodes, but the 5th worst is episode 17, Tanks a Lot. A shockingly stupid idea for an episode. Not only that, but it had possibly the most contrivances in a single episode all stacked together to try and approximate tension. Instead, it's just a cavalcade of annoying noises, terrible physics, and just pointless filler. Then episode 24, Wired for Battle. A terrible character can ruin an episode. Something untrue but treated as fact can also ruin an episode. This one had both. The arrogance on that kid constantly saying, according to my data I'd win, so what's the point of battling? It pushed my buttons in some very bad ways. Then episode 18, Charizard's Burning Ambitions. I really hated this one. It was just awful. Inconsistent with the rest of the series, blatantly trying to set up Charizard is great before flipping immediately to Charizard is terrible, and constantly having characters talk quietly and being heard bloody miles away. I got so genuinely angry when writing this one, and it was an awful outgoing episode for Charizard. Plus, it had the stupid thing of Ash leaving his Pokemon with strangers because he's too inept to actually train them himself. Sorry, just talking about this one's made me angry again. And that was the 3rd worst. The 2nd worst is episode 38, Foul Play. This was barely written. The characters keep reiterating things that have literally just happened, sometimes directly contradicting what's been said or otherwise just showing no regard for it. Considering it was the introduction of a new member of Ash's team and a shiny at that, why was every aspect of the writing so poor? But the worst was episode 40, Psychic Sidekicks. For as bad as Foul Play's writing is, this is somehow worse. There is not a single aspect of this episode that works. Future Sight is bigged up as the ultimate move when frankly it's borderline useless. Psychic is repeatedly said to be strong against Ghost type. The whole mirrors reflecting psychic power and every attack aiming for the exact same spot where they've been told will reflect... This made me so angry. There are a few jokes that stood out. Of course, I still enjoy the sarcastic put-downs. That is very much my favourite kind of humour. But like ones that aren't that. This is a small one. In episode 22, Superhero Secret, there are some people dressed as Metapod. When they smile in the costume, I say, Happy Pod. I have no idea why, but I just find that really funny. In episode 12, The Whistle Stop, there's a point when Ladybur are missing and the group finds some smelly coloured liquid as a trail on the ground, so I say, yeah, that's Lady Piss. In episode 5, Illusion Confusion, Gary shows up and gives Ash some advice. Ash gets angry at him and then goes looking for a Hoot Hoot, and we see him crawling through the grass shouting, Hoot Hoot, Hoot Hoot. So I say, you see, this is why Gary is a dick to him. I really liked Gary more and more as the show went on. This one's a bit of a sarcastic put down, but in episode 20, Chikorita's Big Upset, they set up this big emotional story which got completely sidelined by Team Rocket. Or as I put it, instead of helping Chikorita overcome her issues and providing a good lesson for the kids, they fucked about with a robot. In episode 33, Tunnel Vision, Jigglypuff balloons like 3 times in a row. The first was the usual balloon, but the second I really liked. Balloon 2, Electric Ballooналoo. Thing is, I don't even get what that's really referencing. It's something to Electric Boogaloo, but I don't know what that other movie is. I've never seen it. It's just a reference I know. There are 2 I really like from episode 32, No Big Whoop. Wobbuffet lets itself out and Jessie tells it off. Then they talk about how they need to find a rare Pokemon to send to the boss, and my joke was, Wobbuffet, shut up Wobbuffet, we're trying to find a rare Pokemon. Then later on, Team Rocket encounter Pikachu and just casually ask it for help. Hey, Pokemon we've tried to catch countless times, what's going on? I think my favourite of the season, though, is another one of these sarcastic put-downs that's just the way it lined up was so perfect. In episode 27, Going Apricorn, Kurt's granddaughter goes on an extended ramble about how hurting the apricorn trees hurts this, which hurts that, which hurts the other, and I sum it up with, basically, if you hurt the trees, everything dies. And my favourite bit about this joke is that Ash immediately says, quite happily, that makes sense. And he just put a sarcastic spin on it, and it's something I could have said. And then my favourite PokéSins. So this is favourite of my videos rather than favourite of the actual episodes. And I've got two here. First of all is episode 13, Ignorance is Blissy. This one really made me laugh. The chance for me to just go all out in rants and rages about the stupid plot, but also point out some incredible writing in other parts of the episode. I think it shows sort of the best of what PokéSins has to offer in that regard. But I will say the one thing I really didn't like on a rewatch is that I kept using the word bitch. It's not a word I like these days, so I just wish I hadn't used it so much. But my favourite PokéSins of the season is episode 32, No Big Whoop. The other side of the coin from Ignorance is Blissy, this one was just a joy from start to finish. The Whooper being so cute was just so fun for me to rewatch. And that is it for PokéSins Season 3. The total score for the entire season was -1,903, with an average of -46 per episode, being the best of the 3 seasons so far. I hope you enjoyed this season. Like I said, it was 8 years in the making, so I'm glad it is wrapped up. Before we go on to Season 4 for the main series, I'm going to do some of the specials, so look out for those in the near future. Thank you very much for watching. I ask that you consider pledging to my Patreon because Season 3 would literally not have been possible for me to do if it wasn't for my patrons, so thank you very much to them, and I ask that you check out my Patreon, linked in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you later.